Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to a live episode of Communications and Cigars. I'm your host, John Crook. Thank you for joining me. Ooh, man, it's good to be back. It's good to be back. As a matter of fact, I'm actually a little chilly right now because I was outside and yeah, I think it's supposed to get down to like 30-something degrees here. So guess what? Great to be inside. I was going to try to do the episode outside. Nah, it's not going to materialize. It's too cold there. So thank you for tuning in to this week's episode, which we're entitling Season 2, Episode 2, Radio Education in Usage. Get some. All righty, get some education there. It's an interesting topic, and it's an interesting topic based upon a couple things. One, dealing with basically education and communications. We're not talking about like going and like how to get a license. We're talking to you how not to be an idiot using the radio. Alrighty, and to do some of those kind of things on there. So that's kind of the big thing on there, because I mean, like I said, we're going to talk about some stories and stuff like that tonight. Once again, things that I know personally, things that have happened, as well as, well, just other things that need to be done. Excuse me, but guess what? We are here tonight. We are live. As I said, I kind of try to do the episodes live if I can. We got some good things coming up. We are working on our first podcast. I know I keep saying that, but man, there's a lot going into a podcast these days, and something that's going to be worthwhile. I don't want it to be something stupid and people are like, well, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So that's where it is. But guess what? You are on the show. So let's go ahead and welcome some of the people there. I'm taking a look at my list here. So Ben, good evening. Paul, good evening to you. Chuck, KB8YIT, good evening. Brian Cherry, KG5NUB. We got Ape in there. Good evening, Ape. We got Rick, K2EXE, WA7PBE, POTA by example. Maybe you'll have to be an ambassador for Papoda. Brian, WM8G, and Andy Cowley in there. Thank you very much. And K5YVY, Amateur Radio. Thank you for coming on in there this evening. Oh, we got some more popped up here. Clay Z3R, and good evening. So thank you for everybody for tuning into tonight's episode on there. So let's talk about communications and cigars. We're going to talk about communications. Let's talk about cigars now. One of the things that I've actually experienced on the cigar side recently that I've been running into a problem, and I think it's just because it's actually the time of the year, is a lighter, a good lighter. Now, there's many different people that will have different things about lighters and everything like that they'll talk on there. And one of the biggest things people say is to try to get a good lighter that's going to evenly light the cigar. And I found that, it's like, stupid, a lighter's a lighter, right? No, there's not. There are three flames where you have three flames in a row, or you have the tri kind of flame kind of thing. Then you have actually, because I do occasionally enjoy a pipe, you actually have a lighter that actually it's a Zippo actually, but it's got a little stack there, but in the center, it's a center part. So what you could do is you could tilt it sideways and then drag off the pipe that way. Or if you have a cigar, you could take it and kind of light, and it will kind of, pull it and evenly burn on there. We'll talk about lighting a cigar later, and probably one of our other episodes on there. But biggest thing is find a lighter. Now, a lot of people say, what's a good lighter on there? I like refillable lighters. I like butane-based refillable lighters. Butane's a nice, easy gas for you to buy. It's easy to fill. And then it also is a multitude of different things that are on there. So I can use it for a little soldering torch that I have. I can use it for my lighters. Multiple things that a butane torch can be. And once again, the fuel is relatively inexpensive, probably one of the least expensive fuels out there right now, and you usually can get it at a very easy price. A lot of different places that are out there that I don't know. I guess the best way to kind of describe it is that, most cigar shops, most smoke shops, those kind of things will have that ability for you to go ahead and do that on there. So that's the cigars part of Communications and Cigars. Let's move on to the other part. So once again, thank you for everybody that has joined the show tonight. If you ever have a question, email, comment from the show, whatever you want here, don't be afraid to send me an email, communications-cigars@gmail.com. Once again, communications-cigars@gmail.com. I'm always open to ideas. That's a little bit where today's show came from. A little bit, and but feel free to email the questions and everything like that on there. Also, too, want to go ahead and say our congratulations to our winners for what we call season 2, episode 1, where it was our anniversary back in September. 4 lucky people were able to go ahead and get a shirt of their choice, and they could either get the shirt that said Communications and Cigar logo on there, or they were able to go ahead and get a Papoda. That's right, Papoda, porta potties on the air. And guess what? This a lot of people are like this. We might have to have some fun with this kind of coming up there. I did a POTA on the amateur side of the world, and it was kind of fun, kind of interesting doing it. I had a nice open area, but I think I had more fun driving around and doing POTA. But we're going to do rules and stuff like that. The biggest thing is that those 4 winners back for our 1-year anniversary received the shirts, and the shirts should be coming either tomorrow or Wednesday to them. There was a little bit of a delay because I guess there's a fabric shortage occurring now. I don't know. I mean, there's plastic short, everythly. There's a common sense shortage happening in the world right now too, so let's add that on there. But needless to say, they're going to get those shirts, and thank you to everybody that did go ahead and win on there. And some people have asked, they said, hey, are you going to do shirts? Are you going to do merch? And I've been kicking it around behind the scenes here, and I kind of feel like I'm one of those people that we do get sponsorship from JJK Communications. That's why we got the jjkcom.com address on the end of it there. But I was thinking, man, if we work out some deal and with the show here, I want the show to be about education. I want the show to not go ahead and be opinion and stuff like that. I want to be able to have an outlet that we can educate, communicate, that kind of thing like that. And not just about amateur radio. There's a lot of other people that can do a lot better talk about amateur radio than I can. And I'll be that hands down and stuff like that on there. But there's not too much out there for people that want to talk about other things. Once again, GMRS, FRS, we've talked about it in the past. We got that CB episode coming up here really good too, because I was wanting to see. So yeah, there's a couple different things out there that are out there. And yes, looking in the chats, if there's a steak shortage, we got problems. I actually wanted to get a good Philly cheesesteak this weekend, but anyways, nonetheless, that is there. So that's the part of the communications intro for Communications and Cigars. So let's go ahead and talk about communications and our topic tonight, which is radio education in usage. Now, the reason that I wanted to bring up this subject is because we've become very diverse in regards to radio communications. I think back to when I actually was getting involved with radios, and it was a situation where it was all analog. There may have been some trunk systems. There was fleet call back in the day, which was 800 megahertz trunk, that kind of thing. But in all intents and purposes, you know what it was? It was a pick up the radio, push to talk, release to listen, and that was it. All right. Now we've gone way into a many variety of things. We have analog, we have digital, we have trunked analog, we have trunk digital, we have LTE based radio devices, we have everything across the board. And while the concept of push to talk, release to listen is still there, the usage is bad, folks, is really bad. And there's a lot of blame that happens. And I kind of find that sad. And I find it sad because the blame is 100% related to education. That's what it is. It's related to education. So there's many components that you need to be aware of when you're using a radio. All right, you do. And part of tonight's episode, or I guess you could say the core of it, would be is to consider these things and to go do research for yourself. regardless of what radio service, whether you're using amateur, marine, aviation, CB, FRS, GMRS, business, public safety especially, okay? I'm going to harp on public safety a lot tonight, okay? Because I'm in that boat of public safety, not only as a user, but as a technician aspect, as an educator on there. And guess what happens? I see so many people blaming issues on their lack of education. So the first thing you need to do on the education and usage is you need to be familiar with the technology of your system. That's a big thing when it comes into usage. So just think about it. All righty. You are using a radio system. Doesn't matter what kind. Doesn't matter. But do you know the limitations of that radio system? Do you know the limitations of your radio equipment? And that's the biggest thing you got to understand. Alrighty. Everybody likes to think that a radio system is going to be 100% coverage, 100% proof, not a problem. You're never going to have a bad area, bad coverage area. And you know what? You're full of bleep. Okay. I'm going to say that word because I don't want to get in trouble on YouTube here, but you're full of bleep. And the reason you're full of bleep, and there's a whole bag of bleep, and there's bull bleep, if you get what I'm saying, if you don't know what the bleep means, right, is because guess what? No radio system is going to be 100%. No radio is going to be 100%. There are way too many flippin' variables in radio usage, radio systems, and everything like that, right? Think about it. Can your antenna break on your mobile radio or your handheld radio? Hell yeah. Could the repeater antenna break? Could the repeater coax go bad? Could your coax in the mobile go bad? Yes. Could you have a radio that had bad coax and now because of bad coax, your radio's not transmitting at the full 50 watts or whatever. It's bad finals on it. Yeah. Whole slew of everything. So that's where you got to know about your radio. I mean, you gotta. I mean, so here's one of the stories. A deputy, which I'm going to rename nameless. I'm not talking about anyone in particular. I've traveled a lot around this country, and I've traveled a lot, and I've had a lot of experiences working with many public safety agencies. And this isn't a cops are stupid or firefighters are dumb or EMTs or Band-Aid toters. No, this is hey, it happens. But in this case, it was a deputy, and his radio, he complained about the radio. And each time you go ahead, you ask them questions. You know what their answer was? Oh, it's a damn system. Oh, it's this. I don't give a damn about it. It needs to work right. Well, okay. You know what? I feel for mechanics now when they go ahead and they come in and they say, oh, yeah, it's making a tinking noise. Or what's no, just fix it. No, give me a clue, right? You're going to walk into a doctor and you're going to want the doctor to fix you. You ain't just going to be like, yeah, I don't feel well. No, I got chest pain or I got a headache or I got this or this or this. You're going to give them descriptions. Guess what? Radio stuff. Okay, guess what? You know, like, we got to know. We need a clue here, right? So you have to be able to understand what it is. If you had coverage in the areas the day before or a week before or this or this or this or this, now all of a sudden today you don't. Oh, time to wake up, see what it is. And that's part of this education radio usage. Now, why do I go on this? Because this example that I'm using, you know what the issue was? The issue happened to be an antenna. And how easy is it for you to take stock in something? And I mean you, I'm not saying you in particular, I'm just saying you as in the radio community, to take stock in what you're using for the radio. Hey, you know what? Let's see. My radio always worked fine, and then I went along under some branches, or I pulled into the garage and I heard a tink, 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 and then all of a sudden now the radio sucks. Huh. Could it be that tink, tink, tink was the antenna? Could it be, oh my God, deputy, you took a smooth top squad car through the car wash and it wasn't exact, and it was not a touchless, it was a touch brush kind of one? Huh, wonder what happened to the antenna on that one, right? Portable, handheld radios are the next biggest thing that I see. Okay, how many people out here right now that may watch this, watching it now, may watch it later, How many people are driving with the same tires you had on your vehicle the first day you bought it? You don't, right? You replace the tire, you replace the belts, you replace the hoses, you get the oil changed, or the 710 stick, depending on, anybody get that joke? Okay, anyways. The 710 stick fluid, alrighty, at irregular intervals. Why do you not replace the batteries? Why do you not replace the antennas? Why do you not replace the speaker mics? Why do you not get the radios checked up? That's all part of usage. Your usage, as that old thing, your mileage may vary, alrighty, plays a strategic part in radio usage and education. Alrighty. If you beat the piss out of your car and you beat the piss out of your radio, your car's not going to last long. Your radio's not going to last long. Now, here's the other thing about usage. Alrighty. The other thing you got to remember about usage is this. It's not always your radio. Systems do have hiccups. Alrighty. How do you think digital systems are connected? They're connected by microwaves. They're connected by IP data paths, okay? Sometimes there's a slight loss in sync. And I know radio systems are supposed to be 100%. Well, guess what? They're not. Alrighty. Or that bad storm comes through. Or you lose power at a site. Or blah, blah, blah. I mean, there's a whole slew of things that you can do. I've even seen sites that for some reason a woodpecker pecked a hole, multiple holes actually, into the coax cable. Like literally, they were pinholes that we found. And you know what? It was like, wait a minute, this isn't, at first someone's like, oh, someone came and poked a hole in it. Not when it's 20 feet up in the air, okay? I want to see the guy that Spider-Man'd up there, alrighty, and then decided to take an ice pick from Fatal Attraction and go boom, 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 boom. Come on. Okay, that happens. Connectors aren't put on right the first time. There's a lot of things that can happen. But comes down, why am I saying all this? Because it comes down to radio usage. Okay? If your radio doesn't work right one day, then you stop and you take a look. And it's like going ahead. I'm going to check myself and see my radio's working fine, my portable's working fine. Hey, if your radio's not working in your squad car, don't sit in the same squad car for 8, 10, 12 hours and bitch. Go find and say, hey, Sarge, hey, motor pool guy, hey, division chief, whatever, commander, my radio, my squad isn't working. Can I swap out to a different squad? If they say no, then you got problems internally, okay? But that's where you can go ahead and saying, hey, you know what? The antenna looks okay. Or, hey, the antenna's missing. Or, hey, the radio, I had to jump the car. And ever since I've jumped the car, guess what? I've had problems with the radio. Those things can happen. But then you have to circle it out. Now, the reason I say that is, and I don't know where many people are watching from. I have a rough idea looking in the chats and knowing the people that are in there. But like, for example, in Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin especially, my God, were we getting hit. Always in the Midwest, we are hit with trop ducting. I mean, there are days, and I whether it be tropospheric ducting because it's just, hey, it's the weather of the season, which kind of happens in the spring and the fall, or bad storms. I know when I'm listening to my radio on my fire channel for the county that I live in, and if I put it into monitor mode, because I see the little green light going, I put it into monitor mode, and I hear the department that's on the opposite side of the Twin Cities, the northwest side of the Twin Cities, and I'm hearing them on our fire frequency, or I'm hearing them shared, because frequencies get reused, that's used as a trunk channel, that's about 2 hours north of me. Oh, crap. That's going to be a bad day for weather, okay, if there's no tropospheric ducting. But if you go and you find out there's tropospheric ducting, then go ahead and say, okay, this too shall pass. Maybe like a kidney stone the size of a golf ball, but it will pass, all right? And that's part of radio usage. Now, the other thing about proper parts of radio usage, man, God, that was a lot there, is understanding how you need to communicate across the system. Alrighty. I had a meme one time, and it was pretty funny, and it was a Dos Equis guy, right? And it says, I may not be on the right talk group all the time, but when I'm not on the right talk group, you better hear me and for sure better answer me. Well, you got to be on the right channel. That's part of usage. Understand what your channels are for. Okay. I had a deputy one time. This was a deputy that told me. He said, and it was my E.F. Johnson radio here. He went along and he looked at me and he says, wow, these are a waste of radios. And what the hell are you talking about? Now, I own a couple of these and I really like them. But he says, it's a waste of radios. I said, why? And he goes, well, I heard these radios cost about $1,500, $2,000 each. Yeah. And they only got 16 channels right at the top there, 1 through 16. That's all I got. That's all I could say. That's all I could say. I'm like, there's not. There's like 512 channels in there. Well, there's only 16 channels. Right, you have zones. You have things on there. He says, well, I was never taught that. Aha. You were never educated. Alrighty. And this just isn't field users either, okay? Being a recovering dispatcher, I'm recovering 10 years, by the way. Thank you. I got my chip. Alrighty. I fell in that same boat sometimes too. We want to stay on that one channel. But when we're doing different things, it's okay to change the channel, folks. Alrighty, it is okay to change the channel. And the more important part is to make sure that the system is designed correctly, which it's going to be maybe another episode someday. But basically, that the education on the system design is done properly and done thoroughly. Alrighty, that's the key point. Because I'll tell you what. I know some counties, agencies, businesses, and stuff like that. You can just take a look at their licensing. They got alternate channels. They got their main channel. They got the second channel. They got the third channel. They got the fourth channel. And you never hear them use maybe channel 1 and 2. Not even 3 and 4. But then there's other agencies that are like, bam, call goes out. Business is doing a project or something like that, they are on, oh, hey, we have our normal dispatch channel, construction company, we have our normal dispatch channel that we can go ahead and talk to our main office on and everything like that, but we're on job sites. The minute you're on that job site, you click it over to channel 2 and we talk on channel 2. The foreman has 2 radios. And I'm like, I'm seeing that one time in my life. Through the numerous radio companies I work with, I saw that person said it one time. I'm like, oh my God, they do a better job than some public safety users, right? And that is 100% radio education at its finest in there, and how to use it. Hey, the minute you pull onto that scene, you check out with dispatch, click channel 2, now you talk on the ground. Amazing, perfect. And then there's other times where I can have the scanner programmed with all their frequencies and stuff like that. Never hear them use one. Never hear them once. I sometimes will say, and it's a good example of this. Businesses do this a lot. You go to Mall of America, or you go to some mall complex where there's a lot of radio users, okay? And everybody's got the little Motorola CLS radios. Those have like 8 channels, 4 channels, 8 channels, 16 channels, whatever, right? They program them up. I never hear them on the other channels. They're always on channel 1. Always on channel 1. So, anyways, that's kind of it for that aspect of it. Now, we're going to go back to dispatchers. Dispatching. Now, and I'm not talking about police dispatch, 911 dispatch. I'm talking about dispatchers or being a person that has to take in radio traffic. Because maybe you might be the foreman at a job site and you need to communicate with people and those kind of things like that. Guess what? In that case, that's when you go ahead and say, you know what, here, yeah, okay, yeah, I can't reach you in the job site, or I couldn't reach you in this. That's because it's not radio education. That's because there's not, hey, how do I use the radio? Okay, how do I do it? All right, I've taught many courses, and the first thing I went along and I say is I give them a picture of their radio that they're using. And I'm talking public safety, I'm talking business, whatever. I find out what radio they're using, I take a picture of it, I lay it in front of them, and all the different main components. So there's a little arrow with the line that's pointing to this knob here, and there's a little arrow with the line pointing to this knob here, and there's a little arrow, pointing here and here and here. And you know what I have them do? I have them go ahead and fill out what they think the name is or what the function of that is. So if it's keys, if it's the channel selector knob, what is this knob? And I've had a wide variety of answers. I've had it from the loudness knob. I've had it to the different people knob, the channel selector knob. I've had this as a display. It's so funny because then you could tell, oh my God, I'm going up a hill here. And then there's other people, there'd be like channel selector knob, volume selector knob, push, some people put PTT, some people spell push to talk, on the side, they'll have the light button. And then those are the people, it's like, okay, you wanted to do it. You wanted to go ahead and do that on there. But the reason I kind of am saying now to the people that are the dispatchers, that are the scene commanders, the ones that are the foremen and stuff like that is to make sure someone knows the radio. Because guess what? We view these things as a lifeline, right? We do. If we didn't, why are we carrying it at? Right? Where are we communicate? We have to be able to communicate with one another, right? Right. Okay. But I'll tell you what, I hear law enforcement all the time. This is my radio for communications. This is my lifeline. Okay. But you don't know how to operate it. All righty. What the hell, man? You know, but I see I see people that will say that. They'll say, this is my lifeline and this doesn't work right and this and this and this and this. And I'll ask them, I said, well, what doesn't work right? And then they'll say, well, I can hear the other cars in the field, but I can't hear dispatch. Okay. Well, you think it's your radio? Well, yeah. Well, it's not. If you can hear other cars fine and they can hear you, but you can't hear dispatch, then it's not your radio. It's not their radio. It's not the system. It's something isolated to dispatch. And dispatch has a harder road to hoe because guess what? They are usually directly connected to the system, like almost like an umbilical cord. So now where it comes into radio education and usage is they got to say, hey, wait a minute, I need to speak properly. I need to speak quietly or loudly or however it goes. Maybe I need to use a headset. Maybe I need to use a desk mic. Okay. Maybe I need, whatever the case may be in those situations, they really need to be able to do that. And in addition, they're probably going to be the ones that are going to have to patch. They're going to be probably the ones that have to do this and this and this and this. They need to know how to do those behind the scene things. If anything, the dispatcher, okay, or the person who's operating a console, they need to be way above your end users, okay? They need to be the ones that, you know, the service tech gets called at 2 a.m, or there's a tech and it's not working, or better yet, they complain it's not working 2 days ago and now you finally get the report, right? Okay. They need to be the ones that say, no, this is not working. Here's what I'm hearing. And start laying it out for you. Oh, these people I could hear fine. These people I could hear is fine. I could not hear him or her at all. Okay, well then guess what? Tell them to speak up. Or better yet, oh, the system's not working because they're too loud. Okay, so who's too loud? Well, him or her are too loud. Okay, what about everybody else? Oh, they're fine. Okay, did you tell them to talk softer? Well, no, it's the system. And wrong. Radio education usage. Because guess what? Part of that radio education usage is going to be how you talk on it. Do we want to go ahead and talk like this exactly on there? Or would we rather talk at a nice, normal voice? Now, people get excited. People get whatever. I do the same thing on myself. But I'll tell you, when I'm working an EMS shift and I'm coming up on something, I'm going ahead and being like, da-da-da-da-da, dispatch. Dispatch, go ahead. I'll be on scene, arriving to vehicle. People are out of the vehicle right now. Or, you know, hey, there's one person in the middle of the road, unconscious, appears to be bleeding from the head. Guess what? You're going to get excited, but you need to go ahead and control that. That's also part of the radio education, is self-discipline in there. One of the things I saw pop in the comments on there is that, hey, people get cut off on the first word. I agree with you. People are too much of a push and stuff. And especially if they're hopping between systems of, like, let's say a trunked system and a conventional system. When I've programmed radios, even myself, I actually program the chirp or the transmit tone alert. So that way I know that there's a 300 millisecond delay, key up, medic unit, dispatch. That way I know once I hear the chirp, then I can start talking, because in that chirp time, that 300 milliseconds, guess what? I have the radio is keyed up. It is keyed into the system. If you're on a trunk system, that means the go ahead burp or chirp. If you're on a conventional system, that means that the channel's up for you and stuff like that. But I do that because otherwise, yeah, I oh my God, I hated that so much more when you're going ahead and all of a sudden the next thing you know is like, dispatch. Who the hell was that? Alrighty. Now, the final thing I'm going to talk about radio education usage, and I'll kind of get off my soapbox tonight for ideas, is actually going ahead and thinking, when you're talking, what is the format? Are you using 10 codes? Are you using QSL codes? People do that. Are you using plain language? Are you doing it the me to you, or are you doing it the you from me? What I mean by that is I key up medic 1 to dispatch. That is me to you, meaning I'm going to identify myself first, and then I'm calling the person, versus the you from me. And that would be like, dispatch, this is medic 1. Now, there's a big debate on there because public safety, a lot of the public safety and stuff has always been me to you, medic 1 dispatch, right? Because you always identify. Because in that way, if you're ever screaming or something like that, medic 1, I need assistance now. So I'm yelling medic 1, they know who it is. But on the flip side of the coin is that people have said, and this is sometimes heard to refer to as a military way or the amateur way, where it goes to the old way of saying, dispatch, this is, because if dispatch is busy, dispatch, oh, wait, someone's calling me. Oh, medic 1's calling me and talking to me. Okay, cool. Then you know, then you can put that together. Whatever the case may be, I mean, in EMS, I do the me to you for dispatch and everything like that in other units, but when I call the hospital, it's you from me. Alrighty? Whatever way. Know that way and do it right, okay? Do it right on there. That's all I can really say about that. But it comes to that time in the show where you know what really bends my antenna? You know what really bends my antenna? Is a statistic I found, and that statistic is, guess what? We will spend 10 to 100 times more money on coffee and break room supplies than we will in radio education or continued radio maintenance. On an average, a large corporation will spend up to $10,000 a year for coffee and break room supplies than they will on communications and equipment. This also lumps into large government departments or agencies that also factor in there. So large police departments, fire departments, EMS agencies. Now that number does go down because, $10,000 is a lot per year for coffee and stuff like that. That goes down. But on an average, a small average department, which we're talking about maybe 40 members, well, anywhere from 10 to 40 members and stuff like that on there, on an average will spend $1,000 a year minimum in coffee and break room supplies. Holy God, folks. Jesus, we're spending that much, but when we try to go ahead and get an antenna or provide some radio education for usage, it is like the act of God. Okay? It really is. And that's really a sad part. But I think what's even more of a sad part, or more of a scary part, let's put it that way, is that there's not really many set standards when it comes to communications, education, and training. It is always pushed upon, we don't need to handle it at an upper level. We can push it down to, let's say, down to this person down here, or maybe it gets pushed down more, or even worse yet, I worked at an agency, a government agency at one point in time where guess what? You went to the communication center and was in charge of the communication center and the radio system to either one, go ahead and die. Okay. So basically you're going to retire and be done with it. Or two, you did something wrong and they had to promote you. So they put you in the basement. Alrighty. That's what they did. And the radio education would be pushed off more and more and more and more. And guess what? Guess what? This is the number one thing anytime you do any sort of training. What happens? They go ahead and say, you know what? We had communication issues. Oh, what did we learn from this drill? Well, communications was difficult. Or what did we learn from this incident? Man, I wish we had better communications. And you know what? You could throw all the FirstNet. You could throw all the LTE. You could throw all the 800 megahertz super duper trunk system quad band radios with multiple digital modes and HF and hand. You could throw all that crap. But I guarantee you can buy and spend millions and millions of dollars on 5 squad car radios, including portables. You could spend easily $1 million and get the best of top of brightest on there. Guess what? It's not going to go ahead in any way, shape, or form and make anything better without education. At a minimum on average, people should be going ahead and spending a couple hours a year on education. FTO programs is where this is critically and vital. I've seen FTO programs. I've been involved in FTO programs where you have an FTO for the driver, you have an FTO for the medical person, you have an FTO for this, and you have an FTO for this, and an FTO for this. And guess what? Everybody has told that person their form of radio education. I'll give you the radio education, and here's how I do this. All right? That's ridiculous. Dispatch centers, once again, is even more ridiculous. If there's one thing, a piece of advice I can give to people is go ahead and be able to know how to do it. I can guarantee you that I could walk into a couple different dispatch centers across the United States, okay? Per state, I bet you could easily walk in to 3 to 5, at least 3 to 5 in a whole state. 3 to 5 dispatch centers you select, and then you go to, can you go ahead and do me a patch for this channel, and do this, and do this? And I guarantee you're going to find someone in 3 to 5 of those dispatch centers that either A, don't know how to do it, or they'll say, you'll have to ask that person. I did it once, but I don't know. So that's a good thing to take forward, to take there. Now, why do I talk about it here? Well, I talk about it here because guess where the request for education comes from? It comes from the user, okay? It comes from the people involved. And guess what? 10 to 1, if you go tomorrow, if you're in communications field or stuff like that, you go tomorrow and you say, you know what, when's the last time we had any training on radio training or radio usage or an update or something like that? I guarantee you people will be like, oh God, it's been a year or so. Maybe some places are out there more proactive than I've seen that go ahead and do this and everything like this. And, you know, like, hey, we're going to train on radios. We're going to drill this and this and this and this. But there's a difference between drilling, sitting down, looking at a paper and saying, okay, this is channel A. We are going to use channel A for this. And then there's a difference between saying, okay, guys, we're going to do a communication exercise. One of the things that I suggest, and I've done with my Aries Races group in the past, is that we went along and we took a radio. Everybody brought their radio, and everybody brought their manual, because you were going to have to program some channels in there. What I did is I gave them a piece of paper, and that piece of paper had an A frequency and a B frequency. Everybody went along and should have turned their radios to the A frequency. And A frequency is going to be a VHF or UHF, depending on what you're doing, and a CTCSS tone. And everybody got 2 minutes to program this simplex frequency in there. 2 minutes. That's it. Now what happens is then everybody got a number. Alrighty. And what happened was everybody got a number. So number 1 would then take their card and look at the B frequency and turn their radio to the B frequency, and then they would call on their radio. And the next thing they would do is they would say, hi, this is such and such calling blah, blah, blah on this channel. Well, guess what? Everybody's A frequency was going to be different. So someone in that group would have the A frequency on their card be the B frequency of the person who started. They would communicate and they would clear. Now, that person that just was talking on the A frequency, then they changed their radio to the B frequency, and they're going to call someone. And guess what? No one knew how it was, but it did 2 things. It provided radio education so people understood how to use their radio, and then B, it also provided an understanding of being able to communicate, establish communications, establish comms, and go from there. That's tonight's, you know what really bends my antenna? Alrighty. Well, everybody, thank you very much for going ahead and tuning in. I know we've been at it here, oh my goodness, 37 minutes, 38 minutes here. Thank you very much. I will post information on our, we do have a Facebook page. We'll go ahead and try to start getting out a little bit more. We are looking at maybe even possibly starting our own website on there with some of the information on there. So what we're going to do in that case is we're going to get that information out there about our Podbean podcast so people can listen on there. And then in addition, we have upcoming shows. I want to go ahead and tell you about it, give you a little sneak peek. I was fortunate enough to go ahead and talk to Mr. Richard Carlisle, who is the inventor of Tornado Alert. I had an interview with him, and then we're going to have an episode upcoming pretty quick here that's going to go ahead and cover the Tornado Alert device here, kind of like a little preview of a next upcoming show here. I'm not sure how much long it's going to be, but a great little device, and I think this is also one of those kind of cool things that ties into communications, even though it's not directly related. So until then, everybody, I want everybody to stay safe. I want everybody to have fun. You know what? What did someone tell me? There's only like 10 or 11 more weekends until Christmas, or Saturdays till Christmas. Good God. I have a list if anybody wants to know. And I did get a message. One last thing here. we are looking about merch. Like I said, we're investigating merch if someone wants to buy it, but then we need to know what we can do with the money. So lots of things in works. Until then, tune in when you can. Say 73, and we'll talk to you later. By the way, if you smoke them, sit back and enjoy them.